Our story begins with our protagonist, Haruka Takumi, heading home at midnight after another grueling shift. Despite 2 years on the job, the relentless overtime is finally pushing him to his breaking point. Checking the clock, he recalls meeting a special someone at this exact hour, prompting him to rush home to see her. As he arrives, he hears the familiar sound of frantic scratching against the door. The pure excitement suggests she's been waiting solely for his return. His white dog bursts forward, leaping into his arms with infectious joy, and he's just as thrilled to see her. He even remembered to bring her favorite sausage as a late-night treat. He named her Leo, though his original plan was a bit different. He initially chose the name for a strong male dog, only to realize she's a girl, but the memory was too precious to change it. With the dog fed, he decides to whip up a quick meal for himself. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness hits him, and a sharp pain erupts in his skull. He mistakes the sensation for an earthquake before realizing he's the one shaking, collapsing onto the floor as consciousness fades. All the while, Leo barks relentlessly, desperate to wake her master. When he finally comes to, the sound of her barking greets him as he struggles to his feet. To his absolute horror, a massive white wolf is now standing directly in front of him. He tries to convince himself it's a dream, knowing full well that wolves of this monstrous size shouldn't even exist. As the beast closes the distance, terror grips him, convinced he's about to become its next meal. However, instead of biting him, the creature affectionately licks his face. Stunned, he looks deep into its eyes and realizes this is actually Leo. And the moment he speaks her name, her face beams with joy as she gazes at him with those unmistakably big, loyal eyes. This confirms her identity as Leo, but her massive growth still leaves him in absolute shock. Such a transformation was beyond his imagination. But suddenly, she tilts her head away. He reflects on what a mystery she's always been, displaying human-like gestures and understanding his every word. Given her now colossal size, he begins to wonder if this entire ordeal is just a dream. Leo suddenly turns around and invites him to ride on her back, which brings a smile to his face. However, he suggests they postpone the ride until they figure out their current location. As they venture deeper into the thicket, the forest appears to stretch on for eternity. With no exit in sight, he gazes up at the sky in desperation. He realizes they need to find a way out immediately, otherwise they're completely screwed. Parched with thirst, he prays for a river, and Leo picks up a scent just moments later. She leads him straight to a river, leaving him stunned that she knows this terrain so well. He drinks his fill from the stream, feeling instantly rejuvenated. Deciding to take a breather by the water, Leo gently rests her massive head on his lap. It's a surreal sensation. She used to fit in his lap entirely, but now even her head is too large. Her head alone feels heavier than her entire previous body, a realization that leaves Leo looking embarrassed. Putting those thoughts aside, he begins to ponder his next move. He has essentially spawned in the middle of a dense forest with no explanation. He's well aware that his pathetic survival knowledge won't be of much help here. However, he notices one remarkable thing about this place. The air is incredibly refreshing. He can't remember the last time he felt this relaxed after his soul-crushing work schedule. Takumi gazes at Leo, apologizing for neglecting her lately due to his relentless workload. Suddenly, Leo snaps awake, sensing something sinister lurking in the shadows. As he questions her, a massive, pale-skinned monstrosity emerges, a hideous orc. Takumi stands frozen in shock, recognizing the beast from the fantasy games he used to play. Logic fails him as he wonders why it's here, but Leo doesn't hesitate. She charges the beast head-on. She obliterates the monster in an instant, presenting the carcass to him as a grim offering for their next meal. With no other options for food, he agrees to the feast, and Leo assists with the preparation. She ignites a campfire with a precise fireball and carves the meat with her razor-sharp claws. Stunned by her abilities, Takumi feels his grip on reality slipping, deciding it's best to stop questioning things and just survive. The duo huddles by the fire, waiting for the meat to sear to perfection. Leo's mouth waters in anticipation before she ravenously digs into the feast. Takumi takes a cautious bite, shocked to find the monster meat tastes as savory as high-quality pork. Once their hunger is satisfied, he asks Leo if she knows the way out of this endless woodland. She only offers a confused tilt of her head, making him realize that asking her for directions is a lost cause. He decides their best bet is to follow the river's flow and see where it leads them. As they trek through the dense brush, he notices Leo is in high spirits, sporting a massive grin. Their peaceful walk is suddenly shattered by a desperate, blood-curdling cry for help. They sprint toward the source, hoping that rescuing this person might finally lead them out of the forest. They arrive to find a terrified woman cornered and under attack by a savage orc. Without a second thought, Takumi sends Leo into the fray to save her. Once again, she obliterates the orc in mere seconds and rescues the helpless woman. He showers her with praise for her flawless performance. He then approaches the survivor, asking if she sustained any injuries. She remains paralyzed in shock, reeling from the incredible spectacle she just witnessed. Takumi, on the other hand, is struck by her radiant beauty and loses himself in thought until she snaps him back to reality. He quickly brushes it off, claiming it was nothing. Grateful for her life, she thanks him and asks if the silver fenrir is his familiar. Both he and Leo exchange blank stares, completely clueless as to what she means. He asks for clarification, and she explains that familiars are monsters bound to a master's will. Faced with these RPG terms, he begins to wonder if he simply fell asleep while playing a video game. He questions if this entire world is nothing more than a vivid dream. He asks her to elaborate on these so-called monsters, leaving her stunned that he lacks such basic knowledge. He quickly backtracks, claiming he knows the basics, but inquires about the silver fenrir she mentioned. She points out that a silver fenrir is standing directly behind him, though the title still means nothing to him. Deciding to play along, he confirms Leo's identity and acts as if he knew it all along. She is utterly floored, as the idea of a human taming a silver fenrir was thought to be impossible. Curious, he asks what makes this species so legendary. She explains they are the ultimate predators, famous for their absolute refusal to serve humanity. He glances at Leo, skeptical of her strongest monster status, especially since the beast is currently blushing from all the high praise. She continues, describing silver fenrirs as creatures swifter than the wind, capable of unleashing devastating fireballs. These beasts possess claws capable of shredding anything and fangs that can shatter the unbreakable, feats Takumi has witnessed firsthand. She explains that the radiant shine of a silver fenrir's fur symbolizes its immense strength, a motif reflected in her own royal crest. Takumi introduces Leo, asserting that her legendary status as a silver fenrir doesn't matter, as she is simply his partner. Still baffled that he could partner with such a creature, she demands to know who he is, but he claims to be just an ordinary guy. She finds his claim completely impossible to believe. In her eyes, no commoner could ever earn the friendship of a mythical silver fenrir. She remains convinced that he must be a figure of great renown and reputation. However, he insists once more that he is nobody special and has no standing in society. He then formally introduces himself to her as Takumi. She searches her memory for the name, but it doesn't ring a single bell. Meanwhile, he simply reiterates that he is an average man of no significance. He then turns the question around, asking for her name. She gracefully introduces herself as Clare Liberty, offering her sincere gratitude for being rescued from the jaws of death. As she speaks, Takumi is struck by her overwhelming beauty. He then asks what she was doing wandering through this dangerous forest all alone. She explains she was searching for medicinal herbs, but accidentally ventured too deep into the woods during her research. That was when the beast ambushed her, causing her horse to bolt in a panic. She then asks for his story and what purpose brought him to these woods. But that is a question even he cannot answer with certainty. He reveals that he simply woke up in this forest, with no knowledge of how he arrived or why he's there. He's been aimlessly wandering this place, much to her utter shock. Since he has no idea how he even ended up in this forest, she wonders what mysterious force brought him here. A mystery Takumi is also desperate to solve. Seeing an opportunity, she asks for a small favor, and his ready agreement leaves her absolutely beaming. She flashes a radiant smile, expressing her deep gratitude. Soon the group begins their hunt for a rare herb known as capwart. It turns out she needs his help gathering medicinal plants, and with him by her side, she no longer fears a sudden orc attack. Based on her description, Takumi realizes the capwart sounds exactly like mugwort, remembering that it typically thrives along riverbanks. However, the herb remains elusive, and a weary Takumi eventually slumps to the ground. He decides it's time for a much-needed breather. Suddenly, he spots a plant sprouting directly beneath his hand, staring at it in sheer confusion. Miraculously, it's the capwart appearing as if out of thin air. Regardless of the mystery, he immediately calls Clare over to show her the discovery. A whole cluster has sprouted there, and as she leans in for a closer look, she confirms that this is exactly what they've been searching for. She showers him with thanks, knowing she never would have found it without his help. After stowing the herbs in her bag, she thanks him once more, though he humbly brushes off the praise. Now they face a new problem: getting back home, as the orc attack has long since scared off her horse. Just then, Leo lets out a bark and crouches before them, signaling for them to climb aboard. Clare is understandably hesitant at first, but with Takumi's encouragement, they both mount the massive wolf to begin their journey back. She's completely awestruck to find herself riding atop a majestic silver fenrir. Takumi asks Leo if she has any clue where they're headed, but it's clear she's just as lost as he is. Clare takes the lead, guiding them until they finally emerge from the dense forest. An endless open plain stretches out before them as far as the eye can see. He knows for a fact that Japan has no rural landscapes quite like this one. Once again, he's forced to question where exactly he has ended up. If this isn't some elaborate, bizarre dream, he realizes he's definitely been transported into another world. For now, he pushes those thoughts aside, deciding to take things one step at a time. They arrive at a massive mansion where guards immediately level their weapons, but Claire commands them to stand down, much to their relief. More importantly, they demand to know what kind of monster is accompanying her. She declares him an esteemed guest and orders them to show proper courtesy, which they do without hesitation. She dismounts as the guards swing the heavy gates open. She formally welcomes Takumi to her home. He stands there, stunned by the sheer extravagance of her massive estate. Suddenly, a butler named Sebastian comes rushing out to meet them. Overjoyed at her safe return, he admits he couldn't have faced her father if anything had happened. Claire apologizes for the scare and immediately asks about Tilura's condition. He reports that she's still bedridden with a high fever, making the medicine vital. Takumi realizes this is why she was desperately searching for those herbs. Sebastian explains the medicine is unavailable at the mansion or the local town, which is why Claire ventured into the forest alone. She recounts the orc attack and her brush with death, explaining how Takumi saved her life. Sebastian is visibly shaken by the news. He bows deeply, expressing his profound gratitude to Takumi before introducing himself as the butler of the prestigious Liberty family. Takumi brushes off the gratitude, insisting that Leo is the one who truly deserves their thanks. Sebastian stares in disbelief, questioning if this familiar is actually a legendary silver fenrir. Claire confirms the myth, having witnessed Leo cleave through a massive orc with terrifying ease. He stands in absolute awe as Claire fully empathizes with his overwhelming sense of wonder. After all, silver fenrirs are the indomitable symbols of their kingdom. Taming one is considered an impossible feat. Takumi explains that taming is an overstatement, as he simply took her in years ago and views her as his partner. This revelation only leaves the duo even more flabbergasted. Claire notes that silver fenrirs are fiercely loyal to their packs, making Leo's solitary abandonment a total mystery. Internally, Takumi remembers her as a tiny Maltese he found abandoned in a cardboard box on the side of the road. Obviously, he can't reveal her past life, while Sebastian continues to eye this mysterious stranger. However, Claire puts the interrogation on hold for the time being. Their priority is Tilura, and Sebastian is stunned once again when Takumi produces the rare capwart herb. She prepares a formal welcome for him, and Takumi graciously accepts the invitation. Representing the servants of the Liberty estate, Sebastian officially welcomes Takumi and Leo into the mansion. Takumi feels a wave of anxiety, as he's never stepped foot inside such an opulent, high-class estate. As he enters, a massive line of servants stands ready to greet the young lady's return. He's completely blown away by the sheer scale of the household staff. Claire hands the precious capwart over to Sebastian to begin the treatment. She addresses the staff, announcing that these two saved her life and must be treated with the utmost respect. Two maids, Layla and Gelda, step forward to offer their gratitude and introduce themselves as his personal attendants. He greets them both, but immediately notices that Zelda is visibly trembling with nerves. He wonders what he can do to make her feel more comfortable in his presence. However, he realizes he's in no position to judge, as he's just as overwhelmed by the weight of the situation. The sheer scale of everything is almost too much for him to process. Claire then announces she's heading off to check on her sister, Tilura. She instructs the two maids to ensure their guest is treated with the utmost care. As she heads upstairs, he reflects on what a remarkably kind soul she is. She braved the dangers of the forest just to find a cure for her ailing sister. The maids then request him to follow them as they escort him to his private quarters. He quickly asks if his partner is permitted to accompany him as well. Layla assures him there is plenty of space, while Gelda enthusiastically shouts that it's no problem at all. He follows their lead and is presented with a room of pure, unadulterated luxury. They offer to prepare tea and ask if his familiar requires anything, so he requests some simple milk for her. They obey instantly, and as they leave, he tells them there's absolutely no need to rush. He realizes his deep-seated Japanese instinct to avoid being a burden is rearing its head again. Seeing Leo napping so peacefully on the floor, he finally feels certain that this mansion is a safe haven. Still, being rescued by a beautiful lady and brought to a palace feels like a total fantasy trope, making him wonder if he's just dreaming. Suddenly, Leo wakes up, and despite the time they've spent together, he's still stunned by her massive size. The maids return shortly after, bringing in a fresh pot of tea. Gelda serves Leo her milk with trembling hands, prompting Takumi to tell Leo to show some gratitude to the terrified girl. She does exactly that, letting out a bark that initially terrifies the girl. However, her fear quickly melts away, replaced by pure amazement. Takumi reassures her, promising there's no reason to be afraid as his partner isn't the biting type. Both of them immediately begin bowing and offering their deepest apologies. Layla scolds her, reminding her that this is no way to treat an honored guest. Takumi insists he isn't angry, acknowledging that Leo's massive frame is naturally intimidating, though Layla finds the familiar surprisingly adorable. Despite his colossal size, the familiar keeps his voice low while thanking Gerda, showing a gentle side that is genuinely charming. Takumi laughs, agreeing that Gerda is just as much of a cute girl as Leo is. He asks her to try and relax around them, while Gerda remains completely flustered that he called her cute. She quickly bows in obedience, hanging on to his every word. Layla praises his silver tongue, but he simply laughs it off, claiming he only speaks his mind. Shortly after, Clare enters his room, apologizing for the long delay. When he asks about her sister, she admits that her condition remains dire despite their efforts in the forest. She places all her hope in the medicine made from the capwart he found, and he prays for its success. After thanking him once more for his heroism, she hesitates before asking a crucial question. She asks if he is comfortable revealing exactly where he hails from. While she knows he's a good person after saving her from an orc and finding the herb, something doesn't add up. She owes him her life, but his total ignorance regarding silver fenrirs and basic monsters is deeply suspicious. These facts are common knowledge to everyone in this world, yet he seems completely oblivious. Takumi realizes her suspicion is entirely justified given his lack of local knowledge. However, the truth is that he has no idea how to even begin explaining his situation. Seeing him lost in thought, she quickly apologizes, assuring him he doesn't have to reveal anything that makes him uncomfortable. She explains she was simply curious, especially since she's never seen anyone wearing clothes quite like his. He's genuinely surprised to realize that his modern attire is what caught her attention. She confesses that between his strange clothes and his silver fenrir familiar, she can't help but want to uncover his secrets. He warns her that his story is so wild, she likely won't even believe it. She counters that after seeing Leo's absolute devotion to him, she'll believe his words no matter how outlandish they seem. Moved by her sincerity, he thanks her for placing such immense trust in a complete stranger. He finally agrees to tell his tale, detailing the moment he woke up stranded deep within that forest. He explains that as he regained consciousness, one detail stood out above all else. Leo had grown to a massive, intimidating size. Clare is confused, noting that silver fenrirs are naturally huge, but he admits he knows nothing of this world's creatures. In his mind, Leo was supposed to be a small dog, one he could easily carry in his arms. When she questions his honesty, he swears that Leo was just an abandoned puppy he rescued and raised himself. This is why he was so utterly stunned to see her transform into such a powerful, towering beast. Considering the evidence, he can only guess that Leo has somehow evolved into a legendary silver fenrir. Clare struggles to process this, as she's never heard of a normal animal suddenly transforming into a mythical creature. He then mentions that there is one more crucial detail he needs to add. He drops the bombshell. He has been Isekai'D, a concept that leaves her completely bewildered. He explains that he hails from another world entirely, a place where orcs and fenrirs exist only in works of fiction. Hearing this, she's left utterly speechless, while Takumi realizes his story is incredibly difficult to swallow. He explains that in his world, tales of people being summoned and granted mythical powers are common. He theorizes that Leo is the one who truly changed, evolving into a legendary silver fenrir. Back in their original world, she was nothing more than a tiny, ordinary dog. But upon arriving here, she was bestowed with a divine power that triggered this massive transformation. Clare remains in a state of total shock, prompting Sebastian to step in and question the validity of the story. However, Clare insists that Takumi has already proven his integrity, and she chooses to trust his word. Knowing she is an expert judge of character, Sebastian and the maids immediately drop their doubts and agree. Takumi breathes a sigh of relief, thanking her for having faith in him. With the truth finally out in the open, Clare invites him to stay at the estate, realizing he has nowhere else to go in this new world. Furthermore, her sister Tilura is desperate to thank him personally for his heroics. Takumi graciously accepts the offer, feeling truly appreciated for the first time. Clare wastes no time, ordering Sebastian and the maids to prepare a guest room immediately. He then asks if the medicine is ready, but Clare explains the capwart must dry first, meaning it won't be finished until midday tomorrow. When he asks if they have enough supplies, she confirms that a single stack of herbs is plenty to eradicate the disease. In fact, using all 5 stacks would be complete and total overkill. Suddenly, Leo begins sniffing the herbs, leading Clare to realize that the massive beast is actually hungry. She immediately orders the chefs to prepare a feast, declaring that a grand welcome party is in order for both of them. When she asks what Leo prefers to eat, Takumi has one burning question. Do they have sausages in this world? She confirms that sausages are indeed on the menu. This news sends Leo into a frenzy of excitement as she pulls him into a tight embrace. In the chaos, he accidentally jolts the table, sending the medicinal herbs tumbling toward the floor. He snatches them midair, questioning how these simple plants could ever serve as potent medicine. Suddenly, he spots something bizarre and urges Clare to inspect the plants. To their shock, the once fresh herbs are now completely withered, leaving Clare baffled by the impossible transformation. Pushing the mystery aside, they rush the herbs to Sebastian to see if they can still save the medicine. As Claire departs, a heavy silence settles between him and Leo. It looks like their long-awaited dinner will have to stay on hold for now. Still, he can't stop wondering what truly happened to those herbs the moment he touched them. Night eventually falls, and the two wait in the shadows for any sign of progress. Claire and Sebastian finally return with a breakthrough, thanking him for the miracle that allowed them to finish the medicine ahead of schedule. Relieved that Tilura will soon be out of danger, he offers a sincere prayer for her recovery. Sebastian approaches him with a piercing gaze, asking if the herbs truly dried up the instant they hit his hand. He explains that he only held them for a heartbeat, yet they transformed before he could even set them back down. This revelation leads Claire and Sebastian to a stunning conclusion. He might actually possess a gift. In this world, a gift is a divine blessing from the gods, granted to only 1 in a million newborns. These powers are so legendary that gift holders are often thought to exist only in ancient history. Those blessed with a gift achieve godlike mastery, like a blacksmith capable of forging blades that can sever anything, or a sorcerer who commands the elements with far greater potency than any ordinary human could imagine. Magic capable of drying plants is unheard of, yet they believe he might possess a unique gift for it. Claire recalls his stories about otherworldly travelers and wonders if he received a special power of his own, much like Leo. After all, an ability limited strictly to drying plants seems incredibly bizarre. She suspects this is merely one application of a far more versatile and powerful ability. Remembering a device designed to analyze gifts, she suggests they use it to uncover his true potential. Takumi struggles to process the news, shocked that such a convenient machine even exists in this world. With the plan set, she invites him to enjoy a grand dinner first. He graciously accepts, admitting he's starving, a sentiment Claire wholeheartedly shares. Once they finish the feast, he praises the chef for the incredible flavors. Claire beams with pride, happy to see him enjoy the local cuisine. Knowing their customs might seem alien to him, she encourages him to ask any questions on his mind. Taking her up on the offer, he revisits the topic of magic and drops a bombshell. He reveals that magic is completely non-existent in the world he came from. This shocking revelation leaves everyone in the room absolutely stunned. Claire asks for clarification, and he explains that magic is purely fictional where he's from. Intrigued, she summons Sebastian and tasks him with explaining the fundamentals of magic. Sebastian grows visibly excited, eager to dive into a deep lecture on the subject. Takumi quickly realizes that Sebastian is simply a man who loves the sound of his own voice. Sebastian explains that magic is simple. It's the mastery of the mana residing within one's body. Every living creature possesses mana, and exhausting this vital energy would mean certain death. However, simply possessing mana doesn't guarantee the ability to wield magic. Mastering the proper incantation is the top priority, as it allows a mage to gather their internal mana, convert it, and unleash their desired spell. While incantations vary, they generally align with the 4 basic elements: fire, water, wind, and earth, with the spell's potency scaling based on the length of the chant. Some legends even claim that casting large-scale magic requires non-stop chanting for an entire day and night. Intrigued, Takumi asks to see even the simplest form of magic in action. Sebastian obliges, demonstrating a basic fire elemental spell known as candle magic. He explains how the chant converts his mana into a flickering flame, a spell commonly used for everyday domestic chores. Takumi is left in absolute awe at the display. Sebastian adds that for more destructive power, the chant must be doubled or even tripled in length. This poses a massive risk in combat, as monsters won't simply wait around for a mage to finish a lengthy incantation. To solve this life-or-death problem, a specialized method exists: voiceless incantation. This advanced technique is the key to overcoming the vulnerability of long casting times. Suddenly, a frantic knock echoes at the door. A young girl bursts into the room, shouting Claire's name at the top of her lungs. It's her sister, Tilura, looking completely recovered and full of energy. Claire is stunned by the miraculous recovery, but the little girl beams, claiming she feels better than ever before. Overjoyed, Claire turns back to Takumi. She apologizes for the sudden interruption, though Takumi quickly assures her that it's no problem at all. In reality, he's just relieved to see the young girl has finally pulled through. Curious, Tilura looks up and asks her older sister who this mysterious stranger is. And she told her that he was a very valued guest of hers, who saved her when she was about to be attacked by an orc, and was also the one who found the medicinal herb that cured her. He introduced himself to her, and the young lady did the same as well. Claire pointed out that even though she was feeling fine now, she had only just recovered, and therefore she should be resting in her bed. But she did not want to, since she had gotten really bored after being cooped up in her room for so long. Takumi also understood that feeling and agreed resting does not feel like an option when they were full of energy. Claire did not know how to argue with them, but the fact remained that she was really happy to see her little sister doing so well now. Then she noticed Leo just sitting there, and she asked Clare where they got that dog from, to which she replied that she was not a dog. Instead, it was a silver fennel. Takumi introduced her to his partner, Leo, and she was surprised to hear that a silver fenrir was his partner. Leo then went up to her and she started licking her, which reminded Takumi that she did love playing with children. Tilura looked at her elder sister and asked her if she could really touch her, and she replied that she could, since Takumi did say she was fond of children. That made her overjoyed, and she started playing with Leo, having her phase and all, while Clare thanked him once again for what he did for her sister, to which he responded that seeing her laugh and smile like that was all worth it. Furthermore, she also wanted to thank Leo as well, as it was because of her that her sister was glowing the way she does now. Later, they all left the room so he could rest for the night, and Layla took her leave, wishing him a good night. He laid down his bed, finally able to relax after such a bizarre day, and when he looked at Leo, she had also fallen a rest right away. He thought in his mind that if this really was a dream, then it sure was a pretty long one, as he still had not woken up, and considering that, he guessed that maybe he really was in another world now. But while he was thinking all that, he fell a rest before he even realized. The next morning, he could hear Leo's barking. However, he did not want to wake up just yet and asked her to let him rest a bit longer. Suddenly, Clare's voice breaks the silence, teasing him for not being much of a morning person. He rouses from his slumber, startled to find both her and Tilura standing over him, patiently waiting. After a quick greeting, he offers his gratitude for the incredible room and the best sleep of his life. She invites him to join her for a freshly prepared breakfast, an offer he accepts with genuine appreciation. She checks if Tilura is coming along, but the girl is far too preoccupied playing with Leo. Takumi beams, seeing how much she adores his partner, and she enthusiastically nods in agreement. More importantly, she insists he drop the formalities. No more calling her lady, just her name will do. Since he's older and commands a legendary white fenrir, she's convinced he's the one who deserves the utmost respect. He agrees, bringing a smile to her face, until her stomach growls, signaling her hunger to the world. The two head out to wait for him, while he promises to join them as soon as he freshens up. However, as they leave, a harsh reality hits him. He has no clean clothes and he's starting to reek. To make matters worse, his stubble is out of control, though he doubts razors even exist in this fantasy world. For the moment, he tidies himself up as best as he can and heads down for the meal. Arriving at the dining hall, the group enjoys a feast together until every plate is cleared. Takumi then flags down Sebastian to make a humble request. He asks for a fresh set of clothes and a way to finally handle his messy beard. Sebastian immediately apologizes for the oversight, promising to have everything delivered to his room shortly. Having finished her meal, Tilura asks Clare for permission to go back to playing with Leo. Takumi chimes in, confirming that Leo has also finished her massive portion. He asks Clare to keep Tilura company, and she happily agrees, leading them both out to the garden. Before departing, he asks her to watch over Leo while he returns to his room to grab a few essentials. Upon returning, he finds Layla delivering his supplies, hoping his new clothes provide the comfort he deserves. She also hands him a sharp knife, suggesting he use it to trim his facial hair. She takes her leave, offering her assistance for anything else, while he stares at the blade, wondering if he's truly expected to use a knife as a razor. With no other options, he begins the risky shave, despite having zero experience with such a primitive method. Predictably, the process leaves him with several small nicks that itch incessantly. The water stings his fresh cuts as he washes up, but the irritation finally begins to fade. Stepping into the garden to meet the others, his transformation is immediate. Clad in fresh attire and clean-shaven, Clare is stunned by his sharp new look. He thanks her for the praise as she notes how perfectly the new outfit suits him. He extends his gratitude to Sebastian for providing the gear, while the butler is simply happy to be of service. He's relieved to see Tilura bursting with energy again, while Clare thanks him once more for finding the miracle herb that saved the day. He remains humble, crediting her bravery for seeking the herbs, while Sebastian admits the reckless stunt nearly gave him a heart attack. Acknowledging the butler's worry, she promises to be more careful and avoid such scares in the future. Takumi whispers that she'll likely cause more trouble anyway, causing her to giggle while a sharp-eared Sebastian hears every word. Sebastian asks Takumi to be more serious about these situations, but he just laughs it off, claiming it's no big deal. In fact, he genuinely believes her adventurous spirit is just part of her undeniable charm. That sudden compliment catches her completely off guard. She flushes deep red at being called charming, though she quickly insists that nothing is wrong. Later that day, he and Clare depart from the mansion and head toward the city in a carriage. They are town-bound to secure his daily necessities and a new wardrobe. Tilura begs to join them, but since she is still recovering from her illness, Clare insists that she must remain behind at the mansion to rest. Now, only the two of them remain on the road. flanked by guards, as he questions if she's truly certain about this path. She reassures him immediately, insisting he shouldn't worry. She's even handling every single expense. Grateful for her overwhelming generosity, he offers a deep, respectful bow. Leo walks alongside them and brings up their previous discussion regarding mysterious gifts. He wonders if they'll have the chance to analyze his potential at the appraisal office in the upcoming town. Sebastian confirms the plan, promising to check for any hidden gifts after they finish shopping, even offering to lead the way. With that settled, their itinerary for the day is officially locked in. Still, Takumi remains curious about the nature of these gifts, as no one seems to know why certain individuals are born with such power. Some manifest abilities at birth, while others live in ignorance for years. Research is scarce simply because gift holders are so rare. Clare cuts in with the powerful sentiment. What truly matters isn't the gift itself, but how one chooses to wield it. Finding no fault in her logic, he wholeheartedly agrees with her perspective. They finally arrive at the town, where the locals stand frozen in shock at the sight of a massive silver fenrir, strolling casually through the streets. Sebastian drops them off, requesting a moment to secure the carriage while they wait by the entrance. Surveying his surroundings, Takumi is stunned by the sheer level of activity in this bustling hub. Clare notices his wonder and asks for his first impressions of the town of Rakdos. He admits he's blown away by the massive crowds gathering right at the gate, a sentiment Clare completely shares. She explains that while the town was once quiet, it exploded in popularity as the primary gateway to the capital. Its proximity to the capital is vital, but more importantly, it's the only viable route through an otherwise impassable landscape. When he asks if this is the same treacherous forest he just escaped, she confirms his suspicions. With monster-infested forests to the south and jagged mountains to the north, Rakdos stands as the only safe passage for any traveler. Sebastian returns and suggests exploring the shops to find everything Takumi needs, leading them into a bustling market packed with people. Clare explains that this is the largest, most prestigious market in the entire town. In fact, she regularly sources her own high-quality ingredients and food supplies from this very location. Leo's eyes instantly lock onto a sausage stall as she begins to drool, though Takumi sternly tells her to control herself, leaving her pouting. Clare finds the beast's obsession hilarious, noting that Leo's love for sausages is so intense, she might just bolt for them the moment they appear. To reward her, Clare promises to have the chefs prepare a special sausage feast for dinner, sending Leo into a state of pure excitement. Sebastian then shifts the focus to Takumi's wardrobe, recommending a prestigious tailor located just down the road. Upon arriving at the shop, the tailor is absolutely thrilled to receive a personal visit from Lady Clare herself. The man, named Horton, listens as Clare requests a full set of custom-tailored clothes for Takumi. Hearing this, Takumi is taken aback, wondering if she truly intends to buy him bespoke tailor-made garments. He insists that tailor-made isn't necessary, and that ready-to-wear clothes are perfectly fine. But Clare is visibly confused. It turns out she had absolutely no idea that ready-made clothing even existed in the first place. Sebastian steps in to explain that most commoners buy pre-made outfits that roughly fit their size rather than having them perfectly tailored. This is a complete revelation to Clare, who has only ever known custom luxury, reminding Takumi just how high-class this noblewoman truly is. Takumi then asks Horton to simply guide him toward the ready-made section. Clare argues there's no reason to settle for pre-made gear when she can easily provide him with the finest tailored suits. However, Takumi is plagued by guilt, feeling like he already owes them a massive debt and refusing to add to it with unnecessary luxuries. Despite his protests, Clare suddenly insists that he must have at least one tailor-made set, catching him completely off guard. Once the measurements are done, Horton assures them the clothes will be ready within a week, and Takumi offers his sincere thanks. Leaving the shop, they head toward a variety of specialized parlors to pick up the rest of his daily essentials. Suddenly, a group of thugs intercepts them and initiates a confrontation. Seeing their high-end attire, the bandits demand their money, certain they've stumbled upon a massive payday. The two guards immediately step forward, warning the criminals to back off. However, the thugs mock them, questioning if they really want to fight while outnumbered 6-2. Meanwhile, Takumi stands back, internally cringing at how cliché their dialogue is. But then Leo steps into the fray, her predatory gaze fixed directly on the attackers. The men freeze in terror at the sight of the massive wolf as she slowly closes the distance. Overwhelmed by fear and desperation, one man makes a reckless move. He lunges with a knife, but Leo effortlessly bites the blade and shatters it, leaving the gang paralyzed with shock. Takumi simply pats her head, playfully scolding her for trying to eat things that aren't actually food, as the lead thug falls to his knees in despair. Takumi asks Clare how they should handle these losers. Clare commands one of her guards to summon the town watch, a command he executes instantly. While the guards and Sebastian tie them up, Clare critiques the local security as Takumi asks if these encounters are frequent. She confirms that petty criminals often target unsuspecting merchants and travelers in this area. The bandits try to shout threats of revenge, but a single glare from Takumi and Leo shuts them up for good. The town soldiers finally arrive, apologizing profusely for their delayed response. They offer a formal apology to Clare for their negligence, promising to haul the robbers away without delay. Once the chaos finally subsides, Clare apologizes for involving Leo in the intimidation, but Takumi assures her it's fine since Leo jumped in of her own accord. With the drama settled, the group continues their shopping spree. They prepare to move, but a sudden voice calls out. A young girl approaches, requesting a moment of their time. She asks if the wolf is his familiar, and if the lady by his side is indeed Lady Clare. A heavy silence falls over the duo. Breaking the silence, he clarifies that he views Leo as a partner, rather than a mere familiar. He confirms her second question, prompting the girl to immediately drop to her knees in reverence. She offers her profound thanks for Clare's presence, apologizing profusely for her delayed recognition. Clare quickly clarifies that she isn't here on any official business today. Therefore, there's no need for the locals to offer such formal displays of respect. Takumi is baffled by her choice of words until he scans the area. A massive crowd has gathered, staring in awe, leaving him completely stunned. The woman apologizes for the intrusion but admits her burning curiosity regarding the silver wolf. Clare looks to Takumi for permission to share the truth, and he gives her the green light. Clare first asks for the woman's name, who introduces herself as Esmeralda. She explains that she witnessed their earlier confrontation with the thugs. After seeing the wolf's radiant silver coat and its ability to shatter steel with its fangs, she suspected it was a legendary silver fenrir. Clare confirms her suspicions, identifying the beast as a silver fenrir, while assuring the crowd they have nothing to fear. Despite her words, the crowd remains paralyzed by fear, unable to believe such a monster could be harmless. Takumi steps in, insisting that Leo is actually a gentle soul at heart. Esmeralda counters, arguing that silver fenrirs are the world's most ferocious predators, refusing to believe it could be docile. To prove his point, he commands Leo to sit. The beast obeys instantly, leaving the entire crowd speechless. He reiterates his promise. This legendary wolf poses no threat to anyone. The fact that she's been strolling through town without a single incident should be all the proof they need. He invites Esmeralda to step closer and pet Leo. He wants to prove the beast isn't the monster they imagined, and as she strokes the fur, Leo remains perfectly still. The creature basks in the attention, leaving Esmeralda shocked by Leo's incredibly serene nature. She is mesmerized by the silky texture, never imagining a silver fenrir's coat could feel this heavenly to the touch. Clare adds that the beast is a permanent resident at her villa. With no reason left to fear, Esmeralda bows deeply in respect. She offers a sincere apology for her hasty judgment, but Takumi quickly reassures her that no apology is necessary. However, the commotion draws a crowd, and soon others are eagerly asking for a chance to pet the legendary beast. A massive line forms just to touch Leo, and though it takes ages for the crowd to disperse, Leo patiently brings joy to everyone. 2 hours later, they arrive at the most prestigious general store in Raktos, which looks less like a shop and more like a mansion. The sheer scale of the building leaves Takumi completely stunned. The owner, Hein, greets them warmly, ecstatic to have a noble like Clare grace his establishment. He invites them to follow him, eager to help them find whatever their hearts desire. Exploring the aisles, Takumi is blown away by the massive inventory. It seems they sell every item imaginable. His eyes soon fall upon a peculiar pocket watch, one missing both the minute and second hands. Intrigued, he questions Clare, only to uncover a shocking truth. The concepts of minutes and seconds are completely non-existent in this world. Time is measured differently here. The hour hand cycles up to 14 twice, making a full day 28 hours long. Takumi ponders if this planet has a slower rotation, or if the very definition of an hour differs from his home world. It is a stark reminder that the fundamental laws of time itself are entirely different in this new reality. As he's lost in thought, the shopkeeper approaches and asks if anything has caught his eye. He chooses to purchase a pocket watch and a sleek table clock. He continues to browse the aisles, searching for any other hidden gems. All the while, he reminds himself to stick to the essentials rather than indulging in every whim. Moments later, Sebastian checks in to see if he's found anything of interest. He points out a few elegant accessories that would be the perfect gifts for Clare and Tilura. He desperately wants to buy them, but he realizes he's currently penniless. With a heavy heart, he decides to put the idea on hold for now. However, Sebastian reveals that he can use the reward money from saving the young lady, a reward he didn't even know existed. In fact, Sebastian explains that the plan all along was to use those funds for his shopping spree. Takumi feels a wave of guilt, knowing it was actually Leo who did the heavy lifting during the rescue. Despite his hesitation, he accepts the offer while vowing to repay the debt in the future. Their shopping trip finally concludes, and the group begins their trek back. They've spent hours in town, and Claire estimates they won't reach the mansion until the sun begins to set. Suddenly, a realization hits him. Weren't they supposed to have his unique gift analyzed here? Claire realizes she completely forgot. But Sebastian notes they still have time to visit the appraisal office. Despite a sudden surge of nerves, Takumi decides they can't turn back now. Navigating through the main street and into a narrow alley, they finally arrive at their destination. Standing before them is a grim gray building marked by a black plaque and a haunting white pentagram. They step inside, only to be greeted by a mysterious woman who warns them never to keep an old lady waiting. Her name is Isabel, and she welcomes the group with open arms. Sebastian offers his apologies for their tardiness, explaining they were delayed by a sudden incident. She brushes it off, sharing the town's collective delight at seeing Lady Clare once again. Recognizing Takumi as the only stranger, she correctly guesses he's seeking a mana analysis. Though initially confused, he recalls Claire's lesson. Measuring mana is the key to identifying one's gift. He steps forward and introduces himself to her. She tells him there's no need for nerves and instructs him to place his hand on the crystal ball. He takes his seat and the process begins. The moment he touches the crystal, it erupts with light, allowing Isabel to read his mana levels. She informs him that his mana reserves are impressive, suggesting he could become a master of the magical arts. Regarding his specific ability, she confirms that he does indeed possess a gift. His gift is called herb cultivation, an ability that allows him to grow weeds, herbs, and various flora. Claire asks for a deeper explanation of how this power actually functions. Isabel clarifies that he can grow almost any type of plant, so long as it isn't a common crop. Claire wonders if this ability also applies to rare medicinal herbs. Isabel confirms it does, provided the herb is being cultivated within its natural habitat. Claire recounts how they struggled to find catwart in the forest, only for it to appear the moment Takumi sat down. Isabel asks if the gift was responsible for the discovery, and Claire admits that is her leading theory. But then, Takumi confesses there is one crucial detail he failed to mention about that day. The herb didn't just appear, it sprouted from the earth the very moment he imagined it. This aligns perfectly with Isabel's expert analysis. She is genuinely astonished by the sheer uniqueness of his gift. Claire notes that he was even able to instantly dry the plants the moment he touched them. Isabel explains that this is an extension of his gift. He possesses the power to manipulate a plant's state to suit his needs. Takumi recalls wishing for the plant to dry faster, confirming that his intent is what triggers the ability. He can manifest any non-vegetable plant instantly, leaving Takumi to wonder if this is incredibly convenient or just a bizarrely niche talent. Regardless, he thanks Isabel for helping him decipher the nature of his power. She then offers him a vital piece of advice. A gift is a rare blessing granted to few, and how he wields it is entirely up to him. Its ultimate potential rests in his hands, so he must consider his actions with extreme caution. He takes her words to heart, promising to be mindful of how he utilizes his newfound strength. As night falls, they return to the mansion where the staff warmly welcomes them back from their journey. Layla informs the group that dinner is prepared and ready to be served. Claire invites Takumi and Leo to join the feast once they have finished unpacking their gear. After dropping off his belongings, exhaustion finally hits him. It has been a grueling day of chaos in this strange new world. He praises Leo for her incredible restraint, proving to the townsfolk that she isn't a threat despite her appearance. Furthermore, she protected them from thugs, making him feel an immense sense of pride in his companion. With Leo by his side, he feels ready to face whatever challenges this world throws his way. Suddenly, Layla arrives to announce that the others are waiting for him in the dining hall. Without delay, he follows her to join the rest of the group. Once the feast concludes, the atmosphere settles. He showers the chef, Helena, with praise, leaving her beaming with pride. After all, for a master of the kitchen, there is no higher honor than such genuine appreciation. As she departs, Takumi turns his attention toward Claire. He asks her to open up about her own life, considering he's already shared his secrets with her. For a moment, her mind goes completely blank, caught off guard by the request. A deep blush creeps across her face as she stammers, wondering what he could possibly want to know. He points out that he's still in the dark about her massive villa, and why the entire town treats her with such reverence. She sighs in relief, realizing his intentions, and admits it would be unfair to keep her past a mystery. She begins to explain the real reason she and her younger sister are living in this remote village. To put it simply, they are desperately trying to distance themselves from their father. While he was an incredibly affectionate parent, his obsession became unbearable. Every single conversation they had inevitably spiraled into the topic of arranged marriage. She vividly recalls of the sheer irritation of having to reject 5 different suitors in a single day. The final straw came when he started pushing marriage on Tilura, even though she's only 10 years old. Unable to endure the pressure any longer, they abandoned the main house for good. Takumi sympathizes, noting how exhausting that constant badgering must have been. She shouts in total agreement, the floodgates of her frustration finally bursting open. She launches into a 30-minute rant about her father, while the staff watches with knowing smiles, having seen this many times before. Once the fire dies down, she bashfully apologizes for wasting his time with her sudden outburst. Takumi moves to his next question. Why does everyone in town treat her with such immense respect? He notes that even the town guards recognized her authority the moment they saw her. She reveals the truth. The kingdom recognizes the Libert family as a prestigious line of dukes. Her father, the current head of the house, governs this entire territory, including the town of Rakots. This revelation leaves Takumi completely blindsided. She explains the nobility hierarchy, descending from duke to marquis, margrave, count, viscount, and finally baron. Only the royal family outranks them, meaning they hold the second highest authority in the land. Stunned by her true identity, Takumi immediately apologizes for his casual behavior toward a high-ranking lady, but she cuts him off. She requests that he continue speaking to her exactly as he has been this entire time. In fact, she insists he be even more casual, treating her with the same familiarity as her younger sister. Confused by this breach in etiquette, Takumi turns to Sebastian to see if this is actually allowed. Sebastian simply replies that if the young lady insists, he has no reason to object. Furthermore, since Takumi commands a silver fenrir, his standing is technically higher than a duke's, a fact that shocks him once again. Clare reminds him of their first meeting in the forest, where she mentioned the royal crest features a silver fenrir. She reveals the Libert family crest, which depicts a silver fenrir bearing its lethal fangs. While the royal crest shows the beast in a neutral pose to symbolize indomitability, the Libert crest displays an aggressive posture, signaling their power to crush anyone who dares oppose them. Legend says the Liberts befriended a silver fenrir in the past, using its power to dominate wars and earn their noble status. Because of this ancient bond, the Libert family has continued to honor the silver fenrirs for generations. Meanwhile, Takumi looks at Leo just chilling with Tilura, unable to imagine this lazy fluffball as a legendary war machine. Clare explains that this is why the silver fenrirs are legendary for their ferocity, a reputation our hero now fully understands. Suddenly, Sebastian approaches and requests a word in private, pulling him away from the group. He asks if the item is ready, leaving our protagonist momentarily baffled. Then, the realization hits him like a lightning bolt. He finally presents Clare and Tilura with the special gifts he prepared for them. Nervously, he explains that since they've been such a massive help, he wants to show his genuine appreciation for everything. These presents are his way of thanking them for their kindness. He asks them to accept his tokens of gratitude, leaving both girls completely stunned. Tilura opens her gift to find a necklace featuring a silver fenrir that looks exactly like Leo, and she is absolutely overjoyed. Next, he presents Clare with an exquisite flower pin, and she is instantly captivated by its stunning beauty. With a warm smile, she thanks him for such a thoughtful and pretty gift. Seeing their reactions, he feels a massive wave of relief and joy. Clare quickly secures the pin in her hair and asks him for his honest opinion on her new look. He tells her she looks even more radiant than ever, causing her to turn beet red with pure embarrassment. Later, he pores over a tome filled with knowledge regarding various medicinal herbs. Driven by curiosity, he decides to attempt growing one of them himself. Flashing back to 30 minutes prior, he had asked Clare for permission to use the garden, which she easily granted. She wondered if he was just playing with Leo, but he explained he's actually experimenting with his special herb cultivation gift. He needs to discover the limits of his power so he can ideally cultivate useful medicine for the entire group. Since his goal is to help everyone, she happily gives him her full blessing to use the grounds. He asks Sebastian if the mansion holds any archives regarding medicinal herbs. Shifting back to the present, he studies the aloe plant, a species with thick, jagged leaves containing a potent healing jelly. To his surprise, he can read the text fluently, even though the book isn't written in Japanese. As he analyzes the aloe plant, he realizes it shares a striking resemblance to aloe vera. Because of these similarities, he finds it incredibly easy to visualize the plant and project its image. Ready to test his power, he attempts to use his gift to manifest the herb from the earth. He activates his herb cultivation technique, and the air begins to hum with energy. A brilliant light erupts beneath his palm, and the plant matures instantly before his eyes, leaving the witnesses stunned. They stare in sheer disbelief, unable to comprehend how he summoned a aloe plant so effortlessly. Confused by their shock, Takumi asks if there's an issue with his choice. Sebastian looks at him solemnly, asking if he truly understands the significance of what he just grew. Takumi explains that he simply followed the book's description, noting its similarity to a plant from his original world. Sebastian clarifies that the aloe is a legendary medicinal herb vital for treating injuries. Even a small application of its jelly can mend wounds to a miraculous degree. Takumi initially assumes it's just a magical twin to aloe vera. However, as they sit in the garden, Sebastian reveals the jelly can heal injuries instantly, which completely shocks him. While it has limits against fatal wounds, It is potent enough to vanish a bone-deep gash without leaving a single scar. Hearing this, Takumi retracts his earlier thought, realizing this is far beyond any ordinary aloe vera. Sebastian adds that its nature is a mystery, and it never grows in clusters, making it a rare treasure that commands a massive price. He knew his cultivation skills would be useful, but he never expected to produce something this legendary on his very first try. Takumi asks exactly how much a single aloe is worth. Sebastian explains that since his specimen has 10 leaves, it's worth enough to buy an entire mansion. This revelation leaves Takumi absolutely floored. He begins to wonder if he should just open a shop and sell these plants in bulk. Clare encourages him, confident that his incredible gift would make any store an overnight success. However, the real question is whether he actually wants to specialize in medicinal herbs. Takumi admits he's unsure, as his only goal right now is to earn an income and avoid being a freeloading guest. Sebastian warns against focusing solely on aloe, as a sudden spike in supply would be dangerous. He explains that the market value would plummet, and Clare firmly agrees. She asks Takumi to let them keep the aloe safe in the villa for now, and he readily agrees. Furthermore, she promises to provide full support if he ever decides to pursue the path of a merchant. The Libert family would take complete charge of the logistics for him. He asks if the Duke's people would handle the marketing and sales, and she confirms they would. She reveals that the Libert family operates a massive business empire, both domestically and abroad. The taxes they collect as lords only cover the duchy's upkeep and military mobilization. Their true wealth comes from generations of excellence in commercial trade and massive profits. She suggests that he could simply delegate the entire merchandising process to the Libert family. This ensures that customers never doubt the quality or authenticity of his products. While she won't stop him from going solo, she promises massive compensation and support if they work together. Ultimately, the choice is his, but Takumi admits he never actually dreamed of owning a business anyway. Recognizing his own lack of business acumen, he decides to accept the support of her and her family. She's ecstatic to hear this, though their agreement remains strictly informal for the moment. To make it official, she needs her father's approval, a man she's certain will shoot the idea down. Even worse, she anticipates another grueling lecture about marriage, which leaves her completely drained. She decides to finalize the contract details with Takumi first, saving the confrontation with her father for later. This strategy buys her time to figure out how to skillfully dodge her father's overbearing demands. Later, Takumi consults his guide once more, perfecting his cultivation until the garden becomes a massive field. Suddenly, he spots a bizarre leaf he doesn't recognize, one that isn't even mentioned in his books. This baffles him, as he assumed he could only grow things he specifically visualized. He remembers feeling exhausted while watching Leo and Tilura play, wondering if his desire for rest manifested this new plant. Since its effects are a mystery, he sets the leaf aside to focus on the most important task: lunchtime. Leah enjoys her meal with her usual intensity, making an absolute mess of herself in the process. Takumi gives her the news. As soon as the food is gone, she's heading straight for the tub. She barks in protest, but he argues that a simple napkin won't stand a chance against those stubborn stains. He offers his thanks to Clare before dragging a reluctant Leo off to face the bath. Clare can only laugh as she watches the two of them struggle through their hilarious routine. He finally gets her into the bathroom and, seeing her miserable face, explains that regular baths are now mandatory. As he scrubs her fur, she makes her displeasure known but remains obedient to his commands. He's genuinely shocked by the layers of grime hiding beneath her coat as he continues to wash her. It's understandable, though. She's been roaming the wild forests for ages without ever having a proper cleaning. He proceeds to wipe her face clean. He clears away the messy meat sauce and reminds her to eat more gracefully next time. Once finished, he asks Layla to help dry Leo off, and she happily agrees. Finally alone, he sinks into the massive bathtub, letting the warmth melt his stress away. He reflects that while bathing a giant Leo takes massive effort, it is actually quite fun. Later, he rejoins the group and offers his gratitude for the refreshing bath. Clare praises his hard work, noting that Leo looks incredibly vibrant and fresh. Tilura is obsessed with how fluffy the fur has become, much to his delight. Clare points out the mesmerizing luster of the silver fur, which shines brighter than ever. Looking at her, she finally understands why silver fenrirs are known for their absolute refusal to obey anyone. She then asks Takumi if he remembers the forest where they first met. Legend has it that the first head of the family once journeyed through those same woods. He asks if that is the same ancestor who befriended a silver fenrir, and she confirms the connection. She then makes a bold request. She wants him to accompany her into the heart of that forest once more. The entire room falls into a stunned silence at her sudden proposal. She explains that the first head encountered the legendary silver fenrir in those very depths. Takumi asks if she has any idea how the first head managed to form such a rare bond. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the answer. It remains a total mystery to this day. No details exist in the Albert family legends, nor in the historical records of the first head's life. However, one record exists detailing how the head found himself surrounded by fenrirs in that very forest. It was during that era that the legendary silver fenrir first appeared before them. Following that encounter, the woods were christened as the Fenrir Forest. Takumi is puzzled, questioning if standard fenrirs differ from the silver variant. She explains the vast differences, noting that regular fenrirs are far smaller and lack Leo's incredible speed. Yet they remain leagues faster than any human, wielding lethal fire and ice magic. Their claws might not match the silver fenrir's lethality, but they still easily tear through common men. Takumi asks if packs of these beasts still roam the forest. She reveals that since the first head's passing, not a single fenrir, let alone a silver one, has been spotted. He begins to reflect on his situation, waking up in this forest only for Leo to transform into a silver fenrir. To make things weirder, one of Clare's ancestors was also companions with a silver fenrir in this very forest. He can't help but feel that the hand of fate is guiding these events. She adds that because of these legends, people fear the forest too much to ever explore its deepest reaches. Takumi wonders if venturing deeper would reveal a hidden colony of fenrirs or even more silver ones. Her eyes light up as she confirms that is exactly what she suspects. Suddenly, Sebastian cuts in, offering a humble apology for his sudden interruption. He warns that even with Takumi and Leo's strength, the forest's heart is far too treacherous. The maids chime in, terrified that entering a fenrir den would mean certain death for them all. They desperately plead with her to reconsider this reckless plan. She acknowledges their concern but silences them, demanding to hear Takumi's perspective instead. They offer their apologies as she turns her full attention back to him. She asks him once more if he's willing to accompany her into the dark forest. He hesitates, but her resolute expression makes it clear she's going with or without him. He requests to discuss the matter with Leo first, and she grants him the moment. He pulls Leo aside into a corner to have a serious talk. He explains Clare's reckless plan and asks the massive wolf how she feels about it. Judging by her enthusiastic barking, she is more than ready for the adventure. He warns her that a pack of fenrirs might be lurking deep within those woods. There is even a chance they will encounter another silver fenrir just like her. She remains completely unfazed, even as he points out that regular fenrirs are weaklings compared to her. He questions what they would do if a powerful silver fenrir suddenly blocked their path. Leo believes they won't attack unprovoked, and might even welcome them as allies. He mentions the threat of a massive pack and other lethal monsters, but she simply barks in defiance. She claims she can handle them all with ease, as other monsters are far weaker than her kind. He is stunned by Leo's absolute confidence, but then a sudden realization strikes him. He wonders how on earth he is able to understand her complex thoughts so perfectly now. With no logical explanation, he sets the mystery aside, fueled by her unwavering support. He returns to Clare and agrees to the expedition, sending her into a state of pure euphoria. Meanwhile, Sebastian and the maids are left completely paralyzed by shock. He asks if their opposition is fueled by the fear that something will happen to their mistress. Sebastian solemnly admits that is exactly what they are worried about. His sole priority is ensuring the lady of the house remains far from harm's way. Takumi confidently assures him the forest is safe, provided they have Leo by their side. Sebastian, ever the skeptic, questions if he's truly certain about such a claim. He confirms his stance, revealing that he's already discussed the matter with Leo herself. Layla suddenly interjects, stunned by the implication that he can actually comprehend the beast's speech. He clarifies that it's more of a deep bond. After living together for so long, he can interpret her every thought. The trio stands there in a state of pure bewilderment, unable to process his bizarre claim. Leo begins barking as if desperate to communicate, though her message remains a mystery to everyone else. Takumi translates, explaining that standard fenrirs are instinctively submissive to silver fenrirs and pose no threat to her. Since silver fenrirs never attack their own kin, Clare is thrilled to depart, while a reluctant Sebastian finally yields. She immediately begins making preparations for their journey, aiming to set out in 2 days' time. Takumi then presses her, asking why she's so obsessed with finding silver fenrirs in that specific forest. She skillfully dodges the question, promising to reveal the truth at a later date. As the discussion drags on, even little Tilura begins to drift off to sleep. Before parting, she whispers a promise to explain everything once they reach the forest, away from prying ears. Back in his room, Takumi still can't believe he's actually agreeing to return to that cursed place. The haunting memories of being stranded and battling orcs are still burned into his mind. He's only going for Clare's sake, but he can't shake the feeling that something else is lurking in those woods. Suddenly, Leo begins sniffing a mysterious leaf produced by his herb cultivation skill. Having never seen such a specimen before, he decides it's time to consult his reference books once more. Suddenly, Leo devours the entire leaf in one gulp. Panic sets in as he worries about the potential side effects of the strange plant. However, Leo is more playful than ever, her face radiating a brilliant smile. With her tail wagging furiously, it's clear she has received a massive surge of energy. He asks her how she's feeling after consuming the mysterious leaf. She explains that her fatigue has vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of newfound strength. He realizes that he might have accidentally cultivated something truly legendary. The day of the expedition finally arrives, and downstairs, Layla and Sebastian are geared up for the forest. Confused, he asks if they are also accompanying him and Clare. Sebastian confirms it, noting that while he trusts their skills, there is always safety in numbers. Clare is visibly annoyed, tired of being treated like a helpless little girl. Takumi steps in to calm her, reminding her that they only want to keep her safe. Tilura makes a quick appearance to bid them farewell and wish them luck on their journey. The group piles into the carriage, ready to set off into the unknown. Takumi finds himself in an awkward spot, squeezed tightly between two beautiful women. He is far too embarrassed to even ask them for more personal space. Sebastian laughs at the sight, chalking the awkwardness up to the simple energy of youth. As they leave the mansion grounds, he turns to the veteran butler with a question. He asks Sebastian how long the trip will take, and is told it is a 3-hour journey. Claire notices his unease, but he admits he is just worried about spending so much time in a carriage. She grows curious about the methods of transportation in his world. He explains it in the simplest way possible, describing a metal crate that moves entirely on its own. This leaves her stunned, and she immediately questions how it moves without being drawn by horses. Even after he reveals his world lacks magic, Layla and Sebastian are deeply intrigued. He explains that these machines rely on a special liquid fuel for power. This fuel is burned to generate the massive energy required to propel the crate forward. As for how such a heavy metal object stays in motion, he admits the complex theory is best left to the experts. Regardless, he assures them that these vehicles function flawlessly. Claire is absolutely mesmerized by the idea of such technology. He notes that without magic, his people were forced to get creative with their technological advancements. Eventually, they reach the forest edge and dismount, as the terrain becomes impassable for horses. Sebastian secures the steeds to a nearby tree. Takumi wonders what will happen to the horses while they venture deep into the woods. One guard takes responsibility for the animals until the expedition returns. Layla then asks for his help in gathering branches alongside the guards. She needs the wood to prepare a midday meal for the group. He agrees and sets out with Leo by his side. They gather enough wood to start a fire, but then she makes a surprising request. He informs Sebastian that Leo wants to be the one to ignite the flames. He doesn't mind at all. In fact, he's eager to witness the silver fenrir's magic in action. Claire is bursting with excitement as she finally witnesses a silver fenrir casting a spell. After telling everyone to step back, Leo unleashes a devastating blast of fire breath. The sheer display of power leaves the entire group completely stunned. Claire watches in pure awe as the mythical beast manifests magic right before her eyes. With the fire ready, Layla begins preparing a feast for the group. She asks everyone to rest for a moment while she works her culinary magic. Once the meal is finished, Takumi offers his highest praise for the delicious food. Layla appreciates the compliment, while Claire suggests they resume their journey immediately. Before they leave, Sebastian stops Takumi and insists he carries a sword. Surprisingly, this marks the very first time Takumi has ever held a real blade. Sebastian explains it is a necessary precaution for the unknown dangers lurking within the forest. Takumi accepts the weapon and offers his sincere thanks. However, Leo starts sniffing the sword curiously, leaving Takumi wondering what's on her mind. Fully geared up, the party pushes forward with the goal of reaching the river. Takumi confirms if the river is their primary checkpoint, and the group agrees on the plan. As they trek, he notices Leo is in high spirits, practically humming a rhythmic tune. Seeing his companion so happy brings a smile to Takumi's face. Suddenly, Sebastian's keen ears pick up the distant sound of rushing water. This confirms they are finally closing in on their destination. Meanwhile, an exhausted Clare struggles to keep up, relying on her guards as they promise a break is near. Suddenly, Leo catches a sound. She begins growling while staring into the dense forest, leaving Takumi confused by her sudden aggression. Then the realization hits him. He warns Sebastian to stay on high alert. They have an orc situation on their hands. Philip, Johanna, and Nicola immediately spring into action. They snap into formation, vowing that no monster will lay a finger on their lady on their watch. Takumi draws his sword, realizing he can't just stand by and do nothing. But as the orcs finally emerge, the group is stunned to see 3 of the massive beasts. The orcs charge forward with lethal intent, but before anyone can move, Leo pounces. She obliterates all 3 orcs single-handedly in a heartbeat. The party stands paralyzed, shocked that she neutralized 3 coordinated orcs so effortlessly. Takumi rushes over to her, desperately checking to see if she's injured. She simply sits down and smiles at him, acting as if she hadn't just unleashed total carnage. Beaming with pride, he pats her head for her incredible performance. The guards are left completely speechless. They feel as useless as scarecrows, having done nothing but watch while she handled the entire threat. Sebastian realizes that silver fenrirs are even more formidable than the legends claim. Clare approaches Takumi, asking if Leo is trying to tell him something. He translates her thoughts. To her, these orcs are nothing more than tasty snacks. This revelation leaves them even more flabbergasted. Clare points out that even veteran warriors consider orcs to be a deadly threat. Takumi notices the guards' total shock and decides to spare them further embarrassment, pivoting the conversation toward their journey to the river. He instructs Leo to haul the intact orc carcasses, and she immediately obliges, hoisting one up in her jaws. Seeing her in action, the rest of the group finally realizes just how incredibly reliable she truly is. With the heavy lifting handled, the guards volunteer to carry the severed limbs, gathering the remains as quickly as possible. However, the weight is clearly taxing, and Takumi realizes they'll be exhausted long before they reach their destination. Suddenly, a brilliant solution strikes him. He tells the trio to hold on for a moment, promising them a special gift to help them along. He pulls a strange-looking herb from his pouch, and despite its bizarre appearance, he urges them to consume it. This secret remedy is meant to ease their burden and grant them a much-needed physical boost. They follow his lead and are shocked to find the herb tastes far better than its unappealing exterior suggests. Takumi smirks, pleased that they enjoy the refreshing soda-like flavor of his creation. In an instant, their bodies feel weightless, and the massive orc limbs suddenly feel light as a feather. Surging with newfound motivation, a stunned Clare demands to know what he fed them, which he credits to his experimental herb cultivation. He admits this specific strain was a total fluke, but Clare clearly has a mountain of follow-up questions. He puts her off, insisting they focus on finding the river first, and a disappointed Clare reluctantly agrees. After a short trek, the sound of rushing water fills the air, and Clare's eyes light up with pure relief. Finally, they can take a breather, while Leo wastes no time and sprints straight for the bank. She dives in headfirst, happily floating along the current and soaking in the cool water. While Clare catches her breath, the rest of the party begins scouting for supplies to set up their camp. Moments later, Takumi approaches her with the good news. They've found the perfect spot to settle down for the night. He asks if she's feeling all right, noticing her exhaustion despite her claims that she can still walk. It's obvious to him that she's been pushing herself far too hard today. They decide to halt their journey and camp by the river for the night. While Sebastian helps her get some rest, the guards take charge of setting up the tents. Layla begins prepping the orc meat for dinner, and Takumi offers to lend a hand. But then Leo steps in once more, insisting that she be the one to handle the butchering. Night finally falls, leaving him and Leo sitting alone by the glow of the campfire. He wonders if Clare is truly okay, reflecting on the moments right after they finished eating. Sebastian volunteers to keep watch, knowing that monsters could ambush them at any second in this forest. Takumi realizes he had completely forgotten about the danger, a luxury he had back in his original world. They begin to finalize the rotation for the night's watch. Philip is assigned to take the first shift. Nicola and Layla take the next slot, followed finally by Sebastian and Johanna. Takumi interrupts, demanding to know when his shift starts, but Sebastian tells him not to worry. After all, he has absolutely no experience with this kind of survival duty. However, he refuses to back down and insists on participating in the watch. He admits he's out of his element, but reminds them that he has Leo by his side. He assures the group that the two of them can handle the responsibility. Sebastian yields and assigns the first watch to him and Leo, with the rest following the previous order. He informs them that the watch begins at 10, with each shift lasting 3 hours. Takumi checks his 14-hour pocket watch, calculating that his shift concludes at 13 o'clock. In his world, this shift spans the grueling hours between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Suddenly, Clare calls for Sebastian, insisting she take a turn on guard duty as well. Sebastian urges her to get some sleep, noting she's already pushed her body to its limit during the journey. He warns that if she's still fatigued by morning, they'll have no choice but to send her home. Takumi sees the guilt in her eyes. She hates resting while others toil, but her physical strength is completely spent. Staring into the campfire, Takumi wonders if there's any way he can ease her burden. A rustle from the tent catches his ear, though his watch shows another hour remains on his shift. Clare emerges from the darkness, offering her sincere gratitude to both Takumi and Leo for their vigilance. Surprised by her presence, he asks if she's struggling to find any rest. She shakes her head, revealing that sleep isn't the issue. As she takes a seat beside them, her smile betrays a mind heavy with unspoken thoughts. Finally, she admits that there's a serious matter she's been waiting to discuss with him for quite some time. She begins by thanking him once more for guiding her into these dangerous woods. Takumi brushes it off, assuring her he had his own reasons for returning to this place. Regardless, she insists on showing her appreciation, knowing they only made it this far because of his help. Sensing more, Takumi asks what's truly on her mind, prompting her to confess the guilt she feels for dragging him here. It turns out Sebastian gave her a harsh reality check after she made the initial request. He pointed out that Takumi only agreed to accompany her because she put him on the spot. Realizing she potentially forced him into a life-threatening situation, she offers a heartfelt apology for her selfishness. He reassures her that it's no big deal, as he's never one to turn down a plea for help. Besides, a trip to the woods sounds like a perfect plan. Despite his kindness, she feels the weight of her actions, fearing she overstepped her bounds as a member of a ducal household. Sensing her distress, he asks what exactly is weighing on her mind. She explains that as high-ranking nobles, a duke's family must never issue orders without a righteous cause. By dragging him along, she believes she's brought shame upon her lineage and finds her own conduct unforgivable. To break the tension, he simply calls out Leo's name. The creature immediately rests her head on Claire's lap, catching the girl completely off guard. He suggests she pet Leo to soothe her nerves, and as she does, a genuine smile finally returns to her face. Seeing her spirits lift brings a wave of relief over him. He doubles down, insisting that he genuinely enjoys being there with her. Furthermore, he clarifies that he never felt like she was barking orders at him. In fact, he considers being asked a favor by such a beautiful lady to be an absolute privilege. This unexpected compliment sends her into a blushing frenzy. Still, she looks at him, needing to know if he truly means it. He proposes a deal. If she still feels guilty, she can just explain her reason for visiting the woods, and they'll be even. She laughs, finally agreeing to tell him everything. She confesses that the forest itself wasn't the primary draw. Her true objective is the elusive silver fennel. This rare herb is native to these lands, distinct from anything found in his original world. Her obsession with the plant actually stems back to her fateful meeting with Leo. It all began with a strange rumor that circulated among the manor's servants the day she was born. The rumors suggest she is the literal reincarnation of the Liber family's legendary first head. The conviction of the household stems from a single undeniable source. Countless portraits of the first head adorn every wall of the massive mansion. Her entire life is immortalized in art, and a painting of her as an infant is a perfect mirror image of the girl. This reveals the first head was a formidable woman, a fearless warrior who once decimated enemy forces on the battlefield. Takumi is stunned to learn the founder was a woman, especially as she explains her resemblance only grew as she aged. The servants are convinced of her divine lineage, expecting her to usher in a new era of prosperity for the family name. When Takumi asks for her father's perspective, she reveals he dismisses the entire theory as total nonsense. He urged her to ignore the rumors, insisting she live by her own rules rather than mimicking a ghost from the past. Takumi is genuinely impressed to hear she has such a grounded and supportive father. She wholeheartedly agrees, knowing his guidance is the only reason she was able to forge her own identity. Yet a lingering mystery remains that she simply cannot explain. Every mention of the silver fenrir sends her heart racing with an unexplainable surge of raw emotion. Driven to understand these feelings, she ventures into the deep woods where the first head allegedly encountered a silver fenrir. Takumi points out there's no proof the creatures even exist, a reality she's already accepted. Still, she's determined to look. If they find nothing, she's prepared to let the mystery die right there. She admits this is her final attempt, as her reckless trek has already caused enough trouble for those around her. Beyond this expedition, she sees no reason to continue chasing a shadow. If this search yields nothing, she is resolved to take it as a sign and finally move on with her life. Admitting she was swayed by the servants' gossip, she explains why she kept her true motives hidden from Sebastian and the others. Takumi feels a deep sympathy for her, assuring the apologetic girl that he's actually glad she finally shared what was on her mind. Clare offers her sincere gratitude for his overwhelming kindness. She begs him to keep their conversation a secret, a promise that both Takumi and Leo are quick to make. Shortly after, Philip emerges from the darkness. It's time to swap shifts, and he insists that both of them, especially Clare, get some much-needed sleep. He warns that if she doesn't, Sebastian will give her a massive lecture in the morning, which draws a light-hearted laugh from her. As she turns to leave, Philip advises her not to be haunted by the past, reminding her that they serve her simply for the person she is today. She suspiciously asks if he was eavesdropping, but he plays dumb while Takumi wonders if he accidentally said something bizarre. Shrugging it off, the two head back to the tents as Philip bids them a quiet goodnight. Suddenly, Takumi remembers something and rummages through his bag. He rushes over to Clare and hands her a bundle of herbs, suggesting she eat them before bed. These are specialized sleep aids grown through his herb cultivation, guaranteed to provide a refreshing and deep night's rest. Intrigued, Clare asks to learn more about his research, and he promises to reveal his secrets whenever she's ready. With their hearts lightened, the two finally retire to their separate tents. But just as Takumi prepares for sleep, Sebastian appears, thanking him for his diligence on watch. Startled to find the butler awake, Takumi asks if he heard everything. Sebastian admits he was listening, but confesses he had no idea Clare was so troubled. He expresses his deep gratitude to Takumi for being the one to finally let her vent her worries. He's certain she'll feel much better now, a sentiment Takumi silently hopes is true. With the air finally cleared, they both head off to get some rest. Dawn breaks the next morning, and it is finally time to begin their official search. Fully rejuvenated, the group prepares to set out on their mission. For the search, Leo, Claire, Sebastian, and Takumi venture deeper into the woods, following the river's path. Meanwhile, Philip and Nicola maintain the campsite while Layla and Johanna stay behind to tend the fire. As they push forward, the forest becomes dangerously dense and shrouded in darkness. Sebastian checks on Claire, who reveals she feels remarkably energized. She credits Takumi's medicinal herbs for her sudden burst of stamina, leaving him relieved to see his remedies working. Returning to the search, the absolute darkness makes every step a treacherous gamble. Sebastian hopes to conserve his mana, but the pitch-black environment forces his hand. He conjures a sphere of light to illuminate the gloom. Takumi watches in awe as Sebastian explains that with practice, he can master this spell as well. Takumi asks for a formal magic lesson once they return to the mansion, and Sebastian gladly accepts the request. However, Claire suddenly chimes in, insisting that she should be the one to teach him the mystic arts. The two men stare in surprise. Sebastian reminds her that he taught her the basics, but Claire argues her extensive studies make her more than qualified to lead. Sebastian eventually yields, entrusting Takumi's magical education to her capable hands. They continue their hunt for the elusive silver fennel, but the day ends in total failure. Days bleed into one another, and despite their exhausting efforts, there is still no sign of the herb. On the third night, they huddle around the fire, contemplating their 4-day journey into the heart of the woods with nothing to show for it. A grim realization sets in. The silver fennel might not even exist within these woods. Accepting the harsh truth, Claire announces that if they find nothing tomorrow, they will abandon the search and return to the mansion. Stunned, the group questions her decision, but she insists she can no longer let them suffer for her own selfish desires. As exhaustion sets in, the forest becomes a death trap, and she refuses to risk their lives any longer. Having heard her conversation with Takumi nights ago, the group realizes she is simply trying to ease their burdens. Their love for her is deep, but her logic is undeniable, leaving the group speechless. The following morning, fatigue begins to set in during their forest search, prompting Takumi to look to Leo for guidance. Returning empty-handed isn't an option. His resolve to help Claire is absolute. Suddenly, Leo takes his hand and whispers a suggestion that sparks a realization. He still has his herb cultivation gift. With this power, he realizes he can turn the tide for everyone. He rushes back to the group, announcing he's overlooked a crucial advantage this entire time. By utilizing his cultivation skills, he can wipe away their exhaustion and streamline the entire search. Philip questions if such a miraculous herb truly exists to aid their quest. Takumi can only apologize for his late realization, especially with their time nearly depleted. He offers his gratitude to Leo for the timely reminder. Putting his guilt aside, he prepares to put his research to the ultimate test. He focuses his intent and activates the skill, instantly transforming the clearing into a lush field of diverse herbs. Philip watches in pure awe, witnessing the sheer scale of Takumi's gift for the first time. Takumi harvests the herbs and instructs the group to consume them. Upon the first bite, a wave of refreshment surges through them, restoring their energy to peak levels. Thrilled by the success, Takumi encourages them to sample the other varieties he's grown. Before they continue, he requests that Sebastian extinguish his light spell. A confused Sebastian warns that they'll be plunged into darkness, but Takumi assures him that light is no longer necessary. He distributes the remaining herbs, and the moment they ingest them, Claire feels a profound transformation taking root within her soul. Suddenly, her vision pierces deep into the shadows of the woods. To their amazement, the herbs illuminate the environment, making everything look vivid and bright. With this newfound clarity, they no longer require a light source, allowing them to preserve their mana. But the enhancements don't stop there. Her hearing begins to sharpen as well. He explains that this heightened perception is the direct result of the second herb. He had provided them with 2 distinct, powerful plants. The first grants perfect night vision, while the second amplifies their hearing and environmental awareness to a superhuman level. Now, if a fenrir is lurking nearby, they will be able to track it down instantly. With her senses pushed to the limit, she feels a surge of confidence that today is finally the day. They press on with the search, but as the sun begins to set, her hope starts to wither. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoes through the forest. Leo begins barking wildly as she tells Takumi that a brutal monster battle is unfolding just ahead. He immediately calls out to Claire, informing her that they have finally located the fenrir. Sebastian and Philip are skeptical, questioning the claim since they haven't sensed anything yet. He counters that Leo's instincts are unmatched, and the herbs are working perfectly for her. Yet deep down, he still finds it hard to believe that a legendary fenrir is actually nearby. Leo reports that the fenrir is under attack, leading the group to suspect that trolls are the aggressors. Trolls are 3-meter-tall giants, and while a fenrir is usually superior, a coordinated pack can easily turn the tide. Leo confirms the threat. 5 massive trolls are currently surrounding their target. As the group hesitates, Clare shouts a desperate command, insisting they must save the fenrir. Sebastian reminds her that taking on 5 trolls is suicide, especially since she lacks a concrete plan. Suddenly, Leo lets out a bark, signaling that she is more than ready to charge into the fray. Clare clenches her fist and bows, entrusting the entire mission to her loyal companion. Leo agrees, and Takumi instructs her to speed ahead of the group. As they give chase, Takumi feels a surge of pride seeing Leo refuse to abandon a fellow fenrir. By the time they catch up, they find that Leo has already annihilated every single troll. Only corpses remain, but Leo looks dejected. Takumi immediately asks where the other fenrir is. She leads them to the fallen creature, leaving the group horrified at the sight of it slumped on the ground. It's drenched in blood and clinging to life, leaving everyone paralyzed with uncertainty. Sebastian rushes over to inspect the wounds, and as Clare presses for an update, he delivers the grim news. They arrive just a moment too late. Judging by the severity of the injuries, the creature is at death's door. Devastation hits Clare hard. They finally found a fenrir, only to lose it. Meanwhile, Leo pleads with Takumi. Leo is desperate to save the little one's life, but Takumi feels utterly powerless to help. Clare begs Sebastian for a solution, but he admits his limitations. He is no doctor. Takumi recalls that their healing magic can close wounds instantly, and wonders if they can utilize it here. Unfortunately, Sebastian claims these wounds are far beyond the reach of standard healing. Takumi steps aside. Using his knowledge as a reference, he desperately tries to manifest a herb capable of reversing fatal damage. Activating his herb cultivation skill, a mysterious new plant materializes before their very eyes. He harvests a sample, fueled by a gut feeling that this could be the miracle they need. Without hesitation, he applies the herb directly onto the fenrir's lethal wounds. Suddenly, the light begins to glow with a blinding intensity. It's absorbed into its body as its breathing returns, leaving Sebastian completely stunned. He informs the group that its breathing has stabilized, and miraculously, every wound is now fully healed. Against all odds, the little fenrir has made a complete recovery. Takumi is relieved, while Clare and Leo pounce on him with gratitude. Sebastian, however, remains in shock that a power capable of instantly healing fatal wounds even exists. Takumi simply laughs it off, claiming he just got lucky since he wasn't sure it would work, but he's just glad he could save a life. Sebastian quickly wraps the creature in a blanket, noting it still hasn't regained its full strength. Judging by its small size, he assumes the creature is likely just a pup. It likely got separated from its pack before being ambushed by the savage troll. Once the pup's condition is stable, he suggests that it's finally time to head back. Clare wonders what will happen to the pup now, while Leo tries to communicate something important. Seeing her so worried, Takumi feels a pang of sympathy. He explains to the group that Leo wants to bring the little fenrir with them, and Clare is clearly on the same page. She insists loudly that they absolutely must take the pup back to safety. Sebastian tries to talk sense into her, reminding her that fenrirs are ferocious beasts, but she argues it will only be killed if left alone. He can't deny the danger, and Takumi quickly agrees that they should bring the pup with them. He asks Sebastian if he remembers their conversation before they entered this forest. He recalls their claim that even if fenrirs attacked, they would be perfectly safe with Leo by their side. Takumi adds that younger fenrirs are always submissive to stronger ones, and after hearing this, Sebastian finally relents, agreeing to take it back so they can keep a close eye on it. This makes Clare move beyond joy as she thanks him profusely. He makes it crystal clear. If the creature poses even the slightest threat to the mansion's residents, it will be treated as hostile and eliminated on the spot. Furthermore, he demands that Leo keep a constant watch over it as part of his strict conditions. With everyone in agreement, they prepare to escort the creature back to their campsite. Clare feels a sense of relief, grateful that their expedition finally yielded tangible results. The existence of fenrirs in these woods is now an undeniable fact. Satisfied with their discovery, she gently lifts the small pup into her arms. She asks Leo if she minds her carrying the fenrir, and Leo shows no objection whatsoever. Takumi finds Leo's deep concern for the fenrir surprising, but realizes she likely sees her own past reflected in the creature. As night falls, the group makes their way back to the safety of the camp. Layla and Nicola are left speechless by the unexpected guest they've brought back. Clare introduces the baby fenrir, explaining how they rescued it from a vicious troll attack, leaving the pair utterly stunned. The fenrir finally stirs awake, only to find Leo staring directly into its face, sending it into a state of pure panic. Trembling with fear, the pup desperately tries to turn its gaze away from her. Clare quickly steps in to soothe the creature, promising that Leo means it no harm. She gently sets it down, allowing the two creatures to communicate in their own way. As the girls prepare a meal, they still can't believe they're bringing a legendary fenrir home before offering the pup some food. The hungry pup wastes no time, devouring every scrap of food instantly. Takumi sits alone beneath a tree, reflecting on the sheer absurdity of his life, Leo's transformation, his herb gift, and now a fenrir puppy. As a newcomer to this world, he hoped for a quiet life. But it's becoming clear that peace is nowhere in sight. The following morning, the group sets off, finally nearing the edge of the forest. The guard awaits them with the horses, relieved to see the entire group return in one piece. Since they took their time, he curiously asks if they encountered any trouble in the woods. Sebastian explains the delay was actually due to a lack of luck, forcing them to extend their search. He then introduces their newest companion, the tiny fenrod. Sebastian explains that they've taken it under their protection, assuring the guard the creature is harmless. The guard remains surprisingly chill, choosing not to press them with any further questions. As they prepare to board the wagon, Takumi recalls how cramped he felt squeezed between Layla and Claire before. With a pup now in the mix, he suggests the girls take the carriage while he rides back on Leo. Suddenly, the little pup leaps straight into his arms. It's clear the small creature is desperate for him to ride inside with them. Seeing this, Leo approaches Layla. She gestures for Layla to hop on, who then asks Takumi if he's okay with her riding the giant wolf. He doesn't mind at all, especially since Leo seems perfectly happy with the arrangement. With the plan set, they exit the forest and begin the trek back to the mansion. The fenrod seems to be enjoying itself, and seeing it squeeze into a corner, Takumi realizes it loves small spaces. He recalls that Leo also used to love resting in cramped spots, like between the sofa legs. In that regard, these two powerful beasts are remarkably similar. They finally arrive back at the mansion, but just as they reach the gates, the mood shifts. Suddenly, Leo stops and stares intensely into the distance. She lets out a thunderous howl, sending a shockwave through the entire group. The pup follows suit, and both creatures unleash a resonant, synchronized howl. Once the noise subsides, Claire questions the true meaning behind their sudden display. Sebastian stands stunned, hearing a silver fenrir's howl for the first time, a sound so chilling he fears a disaster is imminent. However, Takumi knows better, recalling that fenrir's howl to communicate, and realizing the two are simply having a conversation. Curious about their exchange, Takumi asks Leo directly to explain what they were discussing. She reveals that she was claiming the mansion grounds as her official territory, and welcoming any other fenrir to join her pack. When asked about the pup's response, Leo explains that the little one eagerly accepted the invitation to join her. Takumi then relays the details of this majestic conversation back to Claire. Claire recalls that fenrirs possess an intense sense of camaraderie, speculating that this was a formal initiation ceremony. She notices the pup has already drifted off to sleep, overjoyed to see it bonding so quickly with Leo. They enter the mansion, where a literal wall of servants stands in line to welcome them back home. No matter how many times Takumi experiences this grand reception, it never fails to overwhelm him. Claire offers her thanks, but quickly urges the staff to keep their voices to a minimum. She warns that the little fenrir might wake up, prompting the servants to offer a hushed apology. Suddenly, Tilura comes rushing over to give them her own enthusiastic welcome. She immediately spots the creature in her sister's arms and demands to know what it is. Upon hearing it's a fenrir pup, her eyes light up with pure, unadulterated excitement. She is instantly captivated by just how incredibly adorable the little creature is. However, Claire reminds her to stay quiet, as the pup is still recovering from a near-fatal wound and needs deep rest. She quickly apologizes for her outburst, though Takumi assures her there is no need to feel bad. Its condition has improved significantly, and it'll be back on its feet in no time. Claire decides to find a quiet spot for it to recover properly. Meanwhile, Zelda approaches him, asking if there's anything he requires. He expresses a desire to change his attire before doing anything else. He requests that she prepare some tea in the drawing room, and she immediately complies. After freshening up, he makes his way back downstairs. Zelda is already waiting for him, tea at the ready. He praises her exquisite brewing skills, much to her delight. Soon, Clare, Tilura, and the little pup join the gathering, with Claire offering her sincere gratitude for his help in the woods. He returns the sentiment as Tilura remains preoccupied, playing with her new companions. Takumi is stunned by how quickly the little one recovered, though Claire notes it woke up the moment they reached her room. She suddenly begins to giggle at a memory, prompting him to ask what's so funny. She explains that since the pup was asleep when they entered the mansion, it was utterly bewildered to wake up indoors. It apparently scanned the room in total confusion, a sight so adorable that Claire can't help but laugh. Shifting gears, she brings up his herb cultivation and asks for details on his latest experiments. He agrees to share his secrets but struggles with where to begin the explanation. Suddenly, a violent sensation surges through his body. His vision blurs and his thoughts scatter into chaos. He's frozen in place, hearing their frantic voices but unable to utter a single word in response. It's the exact same harrowing sensation he felt when he was first summoned to this world. After a period of darkness, he finally opens his eyes. Leo, Claire, and Sebastian stand before him, relieved to see him finally open his eyes. Realizing he's still in this world, he asks what happened while confined to his cot. They reveal he suddenly collapsed right in the middle of the drawing room. Memories flood back as he recalls his head spinning violently during their conversation. He cracks a joke, claiming he just needed a solid nap after their intense forest excursion. This draws a laugh from Claire, who is simply overjoyed to see him recovered. Suddenly, Leo pounces on him, aggressively licking his face while he desperately tries to fend off the affectionate beast. Claire mentions that Leo was terrified for him, refusing to leave his side for even a single second. Now that he's awake, he finds himself fighting for survival against Leo's relentless tongue. The group shares a laugh, noting that these two really are like two peas in a pod. Later, as he and Claire share tea, she questions how much he remembers before the blackout. He recalls returning from the woods and engaging in a casual conversation. But then, his vision suddenly blurred, and the world faded into total darkness. Claire sympathizes with him, realizing how terrifying it must be to lose your sight so abruptly. Sebastian chimes in, speculating that the collapse is a direct side effect of his unique gift. He explains that ancient records warn of gift-bearers losing consciousness from overexertion, urging him to be more cautious. However, the data is inconsistent. Some users can spam their abilities without consequence, leaving the true cause a mystery. He suggests that since Takumi possesses energy sources beyond mere mana, he likely just drained his reserves and collapsed. A confused Takumi asks what other mysterious powers could possibly be hidden within him. Sebastian admits they can't confirm anything yet, as gift users are so rare that research is nearly impossible. Takumi concludes that mass-producing herbs in the forest likely pushed his power to the absolute breaking point. He clarifies that his collapse only occurred after he had safely returned home. Sebastian explains that according to ancient records, a gift's duration fluctuates wildly based on its specific application. Prolonged activation imposes a massive physical toll, while brief usage minimizes the strain on the user. However, these details are pulled from legendary accounts of the past. He emphasizes that, for now, this remains nothing more than a hypothesis. It's highly probable that his herb cultivation doesn't simply stop once the plants have matured. He notes that the herb applied to the fenrir's wounds began to glow, a phenomenon unheard of for ordinary plants. Hearing this, Takumi realizes just how bizarre the situation truly is. Sebastian then reveals that the moment Takumi collapsed, the fenrir also went limp, which leaves him stunned. Fortunately, because the wounds were already closed, the beast recovered quickly. Sebastian theorizes the herb didn't just heal the beast instantly, but rather sustained its strength through a continuous magical link. This shared power likely drained Takumi's mana until he hit his absolute limit and blacked out in the drawing room. Ultimately, he concludes that this is all just a working theory. Claire suggests that if this theory is true, he should refrain from using his cultivation gift entirely for a while. He counters that as long as he avoids cultivating plants with continuous effects, his gift remains a powerful asset. She concedes the point but demands a promise that he won't push his body to the breaking point again. He nods in agreement, thanking her for showing such genuine concern. With the tension eased, she reminds him that she's still waiting for the results of his gift experiments. He finally remembers that those very experiments were what triggered his sudden blackout. He begins to explain the sequence of events starting from his first attempt at herb cultivation. He recalls accidentally manifesting a mysterious leaf undocumented in any botanical archive. After leaving it abandoned on his desk, Leo ends up devouring the strange plant later that night. Instantly, she's surging with explosive energy, claiming she feels more powerful than ever before. Claire remembers a similar incident occurring deep within the forest as well. He confirms her suspicions, admitting that's exactly where he drew his inspiration. However, a sudden realization strikes him regarding his unique ability. Previously, he only focused on an herb's appearance rather than its actual medicinal effects. Yet with these new specimens, he had no clue what form they would even take. Sebastian is stunned, questioning if he truly just wills a plant into existence through pure desire. He nods, confirming that as long as it's an herb, his experiments yield reality-bending results. Tilura watches on, her eyes wide with absolute amazement at the revelation. Still, Sebastian warns him against reckless use, fearing his life is at risk if he collapses again. He agrees with the caution, promising to carefully consider the toll on his body. He then expresses his intent to craft herbs for profit, catching Claire completely off guard. Bowing respectfully, he thanks her for her previous offer to start a business venture. He officially agrees to the partnership, provided he can manage his stamina without fainting. Overjoyed, Claire offers her deepest gratitude on behalf of the entire Jukel household. She immediately instructs Sebastian to seek her father's permission to finalize the deal. However, the butler offers a grim reminder of what this success truly entails. She'll need to prepare herself for an even greater onslaught of unwanted marriage proposals from her father. She brushes aside her worries, focused solely on celebrating this monumental occasion alongside a jubilant Sebastian. Takumi watches from the sidelines, feeling they're becoming a bit overzealous regarding the business deal. Tilura then reminds the group that the little fenrir is still without a name. Clare agrees, noting that it's quite bizarre for such a creature to remain nameless. Takumi adds that a name will help the fenrir feel like a true member of their pack. But before they can decide, they have to determine whether the pup is male or female. Picking the creature up, she asks Sebastian to perform a quick inspection. He confirms the result. She's a female, just like Leo. Clare strokes the pup's fur, brainstorming a title that would best suit her new friend. Sebastian chimes in with a suggestion, proposing the name Slimeson. Clare instantly rejects the idea, claiming it's no name for a young lady. Sebastian immediately slumps over, completely devastated by the rejection. Then, Clare strikes gold with a name she believes is nothing short of perfect. She decides on Sherry, a name that translates to the one who is loved.